The unwanted discovery, the research vessel Curious Light floated above the dead moon, its silver hull shining in the dim light of the distant star. Inside, the crew moved slowly, speaking in low voices, as if afraid to disturb the silence outside. Dia Verix, a tall alien with pale green skin and long narrow eyes, stood in the main lab, staring at the readings on his console. The moon below had no atmosphere, no life, no activity for millions of years. But something was buried deep under its surface. The scan showed strange metal shapes and a large empty chamber beneath the dust and rock. It did not match any known alien structure in the galactic archives. Verix felt a chill in his chest. He had studied ruins all his life, but nothing in the data looked familiar. He called out to the captain, "We need a landing team." Within an hour, a small shuttle descended to the moon's surface. The dust rose in clouds under its thrusters, floating slowly in the low gravity. Verix stepped out first, his boots pressing deep into the soft ground. The landing site was near a jagged cliff where ancient rock had cracked open, revealing black metal beneath. They moved toward the dark opening, lights on their suits cutting through the shadows. The air was silent except for their breathing in the helmets. As they entered the chamber, the metal walls reflected the beams of their lights. The walls were smooth, perfect, untouched by time. In the center of the chamber lay strange shapes covered in layers of dust. Verix approached and brushed the surface. With his gloved hand, his breath caught. It was a skeleton, long-limbed, broad-shouldered, with a skull unlike any species he knew. The bones were heavier than normal, reinforced as if nature had built them to endure impact. Beside the skeleton lay an object, long and made of dark metal. Verix lifted it slowly. It was a weapon, still intact after who knew how many centuries. "This is not possible," whispered one of the junior researchers, whoever this was. "They were built for battle," Verix said quietly. More lights turned to the far wall, revealing dozens more skeletons. Some were lying on the floor. Others slumped against the walls. Many still gripped weapons in their hands. The scene was silent, but it spoke of a final stand. A battle fought to the very last breath. The crew recorded everything, scanning each body. The data showed the same thing over and over. Dense bones, powerful muscles, bodies made to survive pain and keep moving. Not just soldiers, something more. Verix felt a strange unease growing in his chest. It was as if these beings had been created for one single purpose: war. Then the chamber lights flickered. The sudden pulse of energy made the crew freeze. From the far side of the room, a console came to life, glowing with symbols no one could read. The ancient machine began to emit a sound, a deep, rhythmic pulse, like a warning drumbeat. The translator unit on Verix's belt picked up fragments. The voice that came through was rough, low, and full of authority. "If you are reading this, they are awake," it said. The crew exchanged nervous looks. "What does that mean?" One asked. Verix shook his head. "This language, it's old, older than the council itself." The voice repeated the message. Then the console went dark. Again, Verix stepped closer, noticing a small holographic projection flicker for just a second. It showed a star map, a route marked in red, leading to a star system none of them had seen before. The name under it was written in bold letters, Sol. Verix's heart pounded. He didn't know why, but the name made him uneasy. They collected the data, photographs and scans. Preparing to return to the ship, as they left the chamber, he took one last look at the skeletons. They seemed to be watching, in the shuttle. The captain demanded a report. Verix simply said, "We found something dangerous." Back on the Curious Light, the crew uploaded the signal to the Galactic Council. The High Command would decide what to do next. Verix stood by the viewing window, watching the dead moon fall away into the darkness. Somewhere out there, in that star system marked Sol, the truth waited. And he was starting to think they were not ready to find it. The signal from the void. The Curious Light cruised slowly through the darkness, its engines humming softly as the crew gathered in the main briefing room. Dr. Varric stood before the large display, the strange recording from the moon playing again and again. If you are reading this, they are awake, the voice repeated, each word sending a shiver through the room. No one knew who they were, or why the message sounded so urgent. The captain, a stern alien named Torek, crossed his arms, his scaled face tense. "We will transmit this to the Galactic Council at once," he said, but Varric wasn't sure that was a good idea. The transmission left the ship in a tight beam signal, racing through hyperspace toward the heart of the galactic government. While they waited for a reply, Varric continued studying the data. The skeleton scans showed not only heavy bone density, but strange microfractures, healed wounds that suggested these beings had survived unimaginable injuries. It was as if they were designed to keep fighting, no matter what happened to them. The weapons found beside them were primitive by modern standards, but perfectly balanced for close and ranged combat. Varric felt a growing respect and fear. Hours later, the ship's comms officer's voice broke the silence. "Council command incoming," she said. The main screen lit up with the image of High Chancellor Relva, her silver robes flowing as she leaned forward in her seat. "Dr. Varric, your report is unusual," Relva began. "The signal is in an ancient human dialect," she explained, causing murmurs to ripple through the crew. Varric blinked. "Human?" he asked. Relva nodded. "Yes, a species thought to be extinct for over 3,000 years. The Council's linguists had only managed to translate part of the message. Alongside the warning was a set of coordinates to a star system called Sol. We are ordering you to investigate," Relva said firmly, "but proceed with caution." Varric felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Sol, the same name he saw on the holographic map in the ruins. The captain didn't like it either. The Council orders could not be ignored. The next day, the curious light jumped to hyperspace, streaks of white light surrounding the ship. The crew was tense, speaking little as they traveled closer to the unknown system. Varric sat in the science lab, going through the recovered files from the moon again. In the final moments before the skeleton's last stand, there was another audio fragment, faint, almost erased. He amplified it until the words were clear. "We never stop." He didn't tell the captain about it yet, not until he was sure. Halfway to Sol, the ship's sensors picked up a strange anomaly. It was a small broken satellite, drifting alone in deep space. It bore the same strange flag they saw in the ruins. Stars and stripes faded but still visible. The captain ordered it brought aboard. In the cargo bay, Varric examined it carefully. It was old. Impossibly old, yet still transmitting a repeating signal. The tech officer played it through the speakers. A calm human voice spoke. "This is Earth Defense Relay 07, Sol System restricted. Turn back now." The captain stared at Varric. "This system is not as abandoned as they told us." Varric felt the weight of the warning. If this was truly a defense system still operating after thousands of years, what else might be waiting for them? But orders were orders, and the curious light pushed onward. The crew grew quieter with each passing hour, as if the darkness around them was pressing closer. Then, without warning, the signal from the moon returned. It came through every speaker on the ship at once, louder than before. "If you are reading this, they are awake," the voice said again. But now there was something else. A second voice, deeper, harsher, speaking in the same language. Varric asked the computer to translate. The result chilled him. "Let them come," the captain ordered. All weapons charged, though the curious light was not a warship. The crew braced for an ambush, but nothing appeared on the sensors. It was as if something out there was simply watching them, waiting. Varric couldn't shake the feeling that they had already been found. Perhaps the humans, if they were still alive, knew exactly who they were and where they were headed. The final hour before their arrival passed in tense silence. When the stars ahead shifted and the blue light of Sol's star filled the view, the crew gasped. Around the outer edge of the system floated more satellites, all ancient, all still active. Each one locked onto the curious light the moment they crossed into range. No shots were fired, but the meaning was clear. They were being watched by something that did not miss. The captain turned to Verix, his voice low. "I hope you understand what we're walking into." Verix met his gaze. "No, but I think we're about to find out." Arrival in human space. The curious light emerged from hyperspace with a ripple of blue light. The jump drive cooling as the crew stared out of the main viewport. The Star Soul burned bright and steady, its golden glow washing over the alien vessel. Beyond it, planets moved silently in their orbits, each one different in color and size. The navigation officer began reading out their names from the old human star maps the Council had provided. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars. When the name Earth was spoken, Dr. Verix felt his chest tighten. The scanners came alive with readings. The system was not dead, far from it. Power signatures dotted the void, scattered across moons, stations, and points in open space. Some were faint, ancient, like the satellites they had passed, but others were strong. Too strong for something that should have been abandoned for 3,000 years. The captain narrowed his eyes. "We are not alone," he said quietly. The first sign of movement came near the third planet. Earth, a massive structure, floated in high orbit, its black surface absorbing most of the sunlight. At first, they thought it was a dead station, but then its panels shifted slightly, like the slow blink of a predator's eye. The ship's sensors screamed a warning. Dozens of weapon locks had just been placed on the curious light. The captain ordered all power diverted to shields, but they did not fire. Instead, a low, steady voice filled the bridge speakers, speaking in old human language. The translator worked fast. "Unidentified vessel, you are in restricted space." It said, "Identify or be destroyed." The captain's voice was steady. "We are a research ship from the Galactic Council. We mean no harm." A long pause followed, then the human voice spoke again, calmer but colder. "You have 30 seconds to turn around." The bridge went silent, everyone glancing at the captain. Verix stepped forward. "We cannot leave. We were sent to investigate the ruins," the voice replied instantly. "You have already found more than you should." Before the captain could respond, the black structure began to move. It wasn't a station. It was a ship, its hull stretched for kilometers, bristling with weapon mounts and armored plating. It slid into their path with the grace of a predator closing a trap. The curious light sensors couldn't even calculate the number of weapons it carried. It was unlike anything in the Council's warship archives, and this was just one ship. Then something unexpected happened. A smaller vessel detached from the giant warship and approached. Its design was sleek, practical, but every line of it spoke of efficiency and purpose. The smaller ship matched their speed and sent a direct transmission. The image of a human appeared on the screen. He had short, dark hair, pale skin, and eyes that seemed to cut straight through the crew. "I am Captain Elias Ward, Earth Defense Command," he said. "You have entered a system that does not welcome strangers." The captain tried to explain their mission again, but Ward raised a hand. "I know why you're here," the human said, "and I know what you found." Verix stepped forward. "Those ruins, the skeletons, they were human, weren't they?" Ward's expression didn't change. "They were soldiers," he said, "and they died holding the line so you could live in your peaceful galaxy." The words hit the crew hard. Verix asked carefully, "Then, humans are not extinct?" Ward's eyes narrowed. "Extinct? No." He leaned forward slightly, his voice low but heavy with meaning. "We are still here. We've always been here. And we never stopped preparing." The giant warship in the distance adjusted its position, its massive shadow passing across the curious light. Ward's voice stayed calm, but the threat was clear. "You came seeking knowledge, and you found a truth your council will fear," he said. "But know this, you will not take anything from this system without our permission." The alien captain looked at Verix, uncertain of what to do. Verix spoke softly. If we leave now, the Council will never believe us. Ward heard him and smiled faintly. That's the point, he said. Then his image vanished from the screen. And the smaller ship turned back toward the massive warship. The crew sat in silence. Every sensor still showed they were being tracked by dozens of weapons. The captain finally exhaled, set course back to Council space. But as the curious light began to turn, Varix kept his eyes on the giant warship. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Somewhere deep in his mind, the words from the ruins echoed again. We never stop. The archives of war, the curious light had left human space behind, or at least that was what the crew told themselves. But even as the stars shifted back into familiar patterns, the tension in the air remained. Dr. Varix sat in the science lab, staring at the sealed data drive Captain Ward had given him. It was small, black, and unmarked, yet it felt heavier than it should. Ward had handed it over without explanation, his cold eyes unreadable. Show them this, he had said, so they understand. The captain of the Curious Light didn't. Like carrying unknown human technology aboard. But Council orders were to report everything, and this was part of their mission. Varix locked himself in the lab, connected the drive to the ship's secure display, and activated it. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the screen lit up with a single phrase in ancient human language. The translator converted it instantly. Archive access granted. The first image was grainy, black and white, showing rows of human soldiers standing at attention. They wore different armor than in the ruins, lighter, but their eyes were the same, calm, focused, unshaken. A voice spoke over the footage, low and steady. It was Ward's voice. "These are your ancestors' nightmares," it said. "This is the reason the galaxy stayed safe for so long." The footage shifted, showing humans fighting on a battlefield of mud and smoke. They moved as one, covering each other, adapting to enemy tactics in seconds. Then came other battles, in deserts, frozen tundras, deep jungles, cities torn apart by fire. It was not just the brutality of the fights that shocked Varix, but the strange, unbreakable bond between the humans. Even when surrounded, they pushed forward. Even when wounded, they kept fighting. One clip showed a soldier dragging two comrades while firing with one hand. Another showed a small group holding a bridge against an army 10 times their size. The voice said, "We are not the strongest, we are not the fastest, but we never stop." The archives moved forward in time. Varix saw space battles, ships moving in tight formations, using the smallest openings to destroy enemies. Human pilots pulled off maneuvers that no computer predicted. Massive warships emerged from hyperspace in perfect silence before unleashing devastating fire. In one recording, a human commander smiled just before ordering his fleet to advance into impossible odds. The battle ended in victory, but half the fleet was gone. The voice continued, "War is not our purpose, but it is our language." Then, the footage changed, showing images that made Varix's skin crawl. Galactic Council forces, long before his lifetime, fighting alongside humans. The humans had been there in the early days of the Council, defending worlds that now barely remembered their help. One scene showed humans landing on a planet under invasion. They fought for 3 days without rest, finally driving the enemy away. But in the Council records, this battle had been listed simply as victory by combined forces, with no mention of who had led it. The final clips were different, more personal, interviews with human soldiers after battles. Some were young, barely adults, their faces tired but still smiling. One woman with scars across her face said, "We don't fight because we love war. We fight because someone has to." Another, an older man with gray hair, looked into the camera and said, "We fight so you don't have to." Varix sat frozen as the last file played. It showed a planet's surface, shattered and burning. A single human soldier stood in the ruins, weapon in hand, his armor dented and scorched. He looked at the recording device and spoke slowly. "If you find this, remember us," he said. "Remember that we were made for this." And that we never stop. The archive ended, leaving only the black screen and the reflection of Varex's own uneasy face. He leaned back, his mind racing. This was more than history. It was a warning. Humans had been built, shaped, and hardened by endless conflict, and they had not disappeared. They had simply gone quiet. When Varex presented the footage to the captain and senior crew, the room fell into silence. No one spoke for several minutes. Finally, the captain said, "If the council sees this, they will panic." Varex nodded. "Yes, but they need to know." The captain glanced at the sealed report they would deliver to the council. "Some truths are too dangerous," he said quietly. "And I think we just found one of them." The curious light continued its slow journey back toward council space. But in the quiet of the ship's corridors, Varex couldn't shake the feeling that they were being followed. Somewhere in the darkness, unseen and silent, humanity might still be watching, and if the archives were true, they would be ready for whatever came next. The first encounter, the curious light, was only a day away from Galactic Council space when the unexpected happened. Alarms echoed through the bridge as the navigation officer shouted, "Contact, closing fast." The captain looked at the display, and the blood drained from his scaled face. A small vessel had appeared behind them, moving at impossible speed. It wasn't using any known hyperspace lanes. It had simply appeared. Dr. Varex's stomach tightened as he recognized the design. Sleek, efficient, and unmistakably human. The ship was small compared to the curious light, but every reading showed its weapons were fully charged. Within seconds, the human vessel had matched their speed and position. A transmission came through, clear and sharp. "Research vessel, you are ordered to stop." The voice said. It was calm, almost casual, but carried an authority that froze the crew in place. The captain opened the channel. "We are returning to the council. We are unarmed," the voice replied. "That is not why we are here." Varex stepped forward. "Who are you?" A moment later, the image of a human appeared on the main screen. It wasn't Captain Ward, but a younger man with short hair and eyes like cold steel. "My name is Commander Hale. Earth Defense Recon," he said. "You left our system with something that belongs to us." The captain stiffened. "We were given permission." Hale cut him off. "You were given what we wanted you to have." Varex glanced at the captain, realizing Hale was talking about the archive drive. Commander leaned closer to the camera, his voice dropping lower. "You don't understand the weight of what you carry," he said. "It's not history, it's a weapon." The bridge went silent. Hale's eyes scanned the crew one by one. "I'm here to deliver a message to your council," he said. "Tell them humanity remembers, and tell them we are watching." The captain frowned. "And if we don't?" Hale's expression didn't change. "Then we will come remind you." Before anyone could answer, the human vessel moved. In less than 2 seconds, it disappeared from the rear display and reappeared directly in front of the curious light. The sudden shift made the crew gasp. Even their most advanced ships couldn't maneuver like that. The vessel floated silently for a heartbeat, then powered forward and vanished into the blackness. No hyperspace flash, no trace. Gone. The captain turned to Varex. "What in the stars was that?" Varex's voice was quiet. "That was them showing us a fraction of what they can do." The crew was still shaken when the curious light resumed its course. Every shadow in space now seemed like it might hide a human ship, even though they had left so far behind. It felt as if human eyes were still on them. Later, in his quarters, Varex replayed the encounter in his mind. Hale had spoken with complete certainty. No threat in his tone, yet no doubt about the outcome if ignored. That kind of confidence didn't come from arrogance. It came from knowing you could win. The archive's final words echoed in his head. "We never stop." Now he understood. It wasn't just a statement. It was a promise. The next morning, the captain called a private meeting. "We are not putting the Hale encounter in the public report," he said. Varex stared at him. "Why?" "Because," the captain replied, "if the council knows humanity can follow us anywhere, they will act out of fear. And fear, he added grimly, is the fastest path to war. Varix didn't argue, but he couldn't shake his unease. They had left human space, but in truth, they had never really escaped. Hale's words, Ward's warning, the ruins on the moon, it was all part of something larger. Something humanity was carefully controlling. And if the Council made the wrong move, Varix suspected they would learn just how much humans were still made for war. That night, as the curious light drifted through the quiet lanes of space, Varix stood alone at the viewing window. Far in the distance, a faint light flickered and vanished. It might have been a distant star, or it might have been a ship. Either way, he knew what it meant. They were not alone, and they never would be again. The terrifying truth spreads. The curious light finally crossed into Galactic Council space. Its crew exhausted but silent. No one celebrated their return. The shadow of what they had seen and who they had met hung over every conversation. Dr. Varix carried the sealed archive drive under his arm as they approached the Council's high assembly tower. The building rose into the clouds, gleaming with polished metal. Inside, hundreds of species bustled through its vast halls, unaware of the storm about to break. In the secure chamber, the Council leaders sat in a semicircle, their robes shimmering under the soft light. High Chancellor Relva motioned for Varix to step forward. "You have something for us," she said. Varix placed the drive on the table and activated it, one by one. The archive recordings appeared on the central hologram. Ancient battlefields, human soldiers, fleets in formation. The room, normally filled with debate and noise, grew utterly still. Some members leaned forward, fascinated. Others recoiled at the sheer violence on display. When the recording showed humans fighting alongside Council forces in the distant past, gasps filled the chamber. "You mean they were there?" one elder asked. Varix nodded slowly. "They were not just there, they were leading." The footage continued, ending with the scarred human soldier's final words, "We never stop." A heated argument exploded across the chamber. Several representatives called for immediate peace negotiations with Earth. Others demanded that the human home system be quarantined and surrounded by a defensive fleet. One shouted, "If they are so dangerous, we must act before they act against us." Another countered, "If we strike them, they will destroy us." Relva raised her voice. "Enough," she commanded. "We will vote after reviewing all evidence." Varix thought it was over, but then the doors opened. A messenger rushed in, holding a datapad. "Breaking news from the outer colonies," he announced. The screen flickered, showing shaky footage from a cargo station. In the background, a human ship hovered silently, its weapons locked but unfired. A voice from the station crew shouted. "They came, scanned everything, and then just left." The chamber erupted again. This was not supposed to be possible. Human ships were not registered in any Council records. If they could appear anywhere, anytime, the balance of power in the galaxy was already broken. Relva looked directly at Varix. "You said they gave you this archive," she said. "Why?" Varix hesitated, then answered, "To make sure you understand that they are ready." Word spread across the galaxy faster than the Council could control. Within days, the archive footage had leaked to the outer networks. News channels replayed the scenes of human wars endlessly. Some worlds panicked, building new fleets and fortifying their cities. Others sent envoys toward Sol, hoping to secure friendship before it was too late. In back alleys and dark meeting rooms, smugglers whispered of human technology worth fortunes. And among military leaders, a single question spread: if they come, can we stop them? Meanwhile, in the quiet of his quarters, Varix reviewed his own private copy of the archive. He paused on the clip of the old soldier's words. There was something in the man's eyes, not hatred, not pride, but something else: determination. Varix began to wonder if humanity's greatest weapon was not their strength or ships, but their will. On the other side of the galaxy, in a hidden command center beneath Earth's surface, Captain Ward stood before a massive screen. Reports from human recon units scrolled past. Council worlds were preparing for war. Ward turned to Commander Hale, who had just returned from intercepting the curious light. "They've seen enough," Ward said. Hale smirked. "Enough to fear us, or enough to respect us?" Ward's eyes narrowed. Both. Back at the council, the final vote was held in secret. The decision was not to attack, but to watch closely. Surveillance probes were sent toward Seoul. Patrol fleets were quietly reassigned to the border regions, but Verix knew deep down that if humans noticed, they would not take it as a gesture of peace. They would see it as preparation for war. That night, Verix stood at his window in the guest quarters of the Assembly Tower. In the distance, the city lights of the council capital glittered like stars. And somewhere far beyond them, in a system guarded by black warships and silent sentinels, humanity waited. He whispered to himself, "We never stop, not in fear, but in understanding," because now the whole galaxy knew the terrifying truth. If humanity was made for war, they would fight it better than anyone. Humanity's answer, the Galactic Council's decision to watch humanity, was meant to be quiet. But in space, nothing stayed secret for long. Within weeks, human reconnaissance ships had intercepted 2 of the Council's stealth probes. Both probes were returned intact, but with a single message carved into their hulls in every major galactic language: "We see you." Dr. Verix was in the Assembly Tower when the news arrived. The room filled with tension as council members whispered to one another. The High Chancellor tried to calm them, but the fear was already spreading. Verix knew what would come next. Humanity would respond not with words, but with a show of strength, and it came sooner than expected. The alarm sounded first, echoing across the council capital. Every orbital defense platform lit up with incoming contact warnings. Dozens of massive ships were emerging from hyperspace. They moved in perfect formation, their black hulls absorbing the light. Weapons ports glowed faintly, but none were aimed at the planet. These were not warships here to attack. They were here to be seen. The largest vessel in the fleet drifted forward, eclipsing the sun for the capital below. Its size was unlike anything in the Council's database, not just a ship, but a moving fortress, bristling with weapons and shield arrays. Council defense crews watched nervously as the ship stopped exactly at the safe distance limit. Then, a single transmission came through. "This is the Dreadnought Atlas, Earth Defense Command." The image of Captain Ward appeared on the main council screens. He wore dark uniform armor, his posture calm but unyielding. "You have seen our past," he said, his voice steady. "You have studied our history, our wars, our soldiers. Now you will understand our present." Behind him, the holoscreens on the Atlas Bridge came alive with live tactical feeds. They showed human fleets patrolling asteroid belts, training on barren moons, escorting civilian convoys. Massive shipyards floated in orbit around blue and green planets, constructing more warships by the day. Armored ground troops drilled in endless rows, their movements sharp and synchronized. Ward's voice continued, "We do not seek conquest." He said, "We do not seek war, but we do not run from it either." The council chamber remained silent. Ward leaned forward slightly, his gaze unwavering. "We are not a people you can contain, threaten, or quietly remove from the galaxy," he said. "If you come for us, you will find us ready. And if you threaten those under our protection, you will wish you had never been born." The feed shifted again, now showing something the council had never seen. A massive fleet of dreadnoughts appearing together in hyperspace. Their arrival shockwaves rippled across nearby planets. Ward's voice returned. "This is not our full strength," he said. "This is what we allow you to see." Back on the council floor, a few representatives whispered urgently, "This is intimidation." One muttered, another shook his head. "No. This is a warning." Verix, standing at the edge of the chamber, said nothing. He simply watched as Ward's image filled every screen, every projection, every broadcast frequency in council space. Then Ward delivered the final words. "The galaxy believes humans were made for war," he said, "and you are right. But you have forgotten the most important truth. We choose when to fight. And if that day comes, remember this, we never stop. The feed ended. And the Atlas fleet began to move. One by one, the human warships turned and jumped back into hyperspace. No shots were fired, no weapons discharged, but the silence they left behind was heavier than any battle. For days afterward, news channels across the galaxy replayed Ward's speech. Some worlds cheered, believing humanity would stand as a shield against any threat. Others built more weapons, certain that humans would one day turn their power on the galaxy itself. The balance of fear and respect shifted in every star system. But one thing became clear: no one would underestimate Earth again. Varix left the assembly tower that evening and walked into the cool night air. Above him, the stars glittered against the black sky. Somewhere out there, beyond the edge of known space, humanity was still watching, and deep down, Varix understood the truth better than anyone. This was not the end of the story, it was the beginning. Because as long as humanity was out there, the galaxy would live with the knowledge that war was never more than one decision away.